Honde Onde Mtsan. This is Thongya, a podcast by the District 7 Legislative Office. Good afternoon, District 7 citizens. As we bid a farewell to the warmth and vibrancy of summer, I hope you and your loved ones have enjoyed a fun-filled season of ceremonies and dances with memorable experiences and hopefully some relaxation with the changing colors we're about to see with the arrival of autumn on the horizon. I'm excited to share the latest update of our legislative efforts within the Kiowa tribe. Over the past few months, our dedicated team has been diligently working on several key initiatives aimed at enhancing the well-being and prosperity of our Kiowa community. These efforts include the strengthening of our tribal services, expanding educational opportunities, and preserving our rich cultural heritage as a tribe. Our legislative body has been actively engaged with various stakeholders to ensure the voices of our district citizens are heard and that our needs are met. We believe that by working together, we can create a brighter future for all of our tribal citizens. And with this podcast, I hope you stay informed and remain involved in our ongoing legislative work. It's never done. We work as a team, we dialogue, and our roles as legislators need to be clarified from time to time. A lot of our citizens are calling our legislative offices for direct services, housing services, enrollment services, and I think it's important to understand that as legislators, we don't have any direct service programming, meaning we don't have a budget to help with paying your light bills or your electric bills or your gas bills, or we don't have money to get your roof fixed. Our primary roles laid out in our Constitution are to create laws, pass resolutions, and approve the annual budget. We also act as advocates for our services to help our people, but that's not our primary role. We are able to connect you and guide you to access those services, but as far as approving them and coordinating services for our citizens, that's not typically within our responsibilities laid out in our Constitution. So I encourage you to remain informed and understand what our legislative work is. And your participation and support are crucial in shaping the future of our community. And I always want you to feel free to reach out to our legislative office and voice your concerns. You can contact our Norman office, or you may contact our Tulsa office. You can also email us at district7legislature@kiowatribe.org, or find us on Facebook, find us on TikTok, Instagram. Visit our website under the District 7 Legislative page for the latest updates. And as always, thank you for your continued trust and commitment. Together, let's move forward towards building a stronger and more united Kiowa tribe. Do gu do ta ga ya tain so do do ta ga do it's on the way. Do gu do ta ga ya tain so do do ta ga do it's on the way. Do gu do ta ga ya tain so do do ta ga do it's on the way. Do gu do ta ga ya tain so do do ta ga do it's on the way. Do gu do ta ga ya tain so do do ta ga do it's on the way. Do gu do ta ga ya tain so do do ta ga do it's on the way. Do gu do ta ga ya tain so do do ta ga do it's on the way. Do gu do ta ga ya tain so do do ta ga do it's on the way. Do gu do ta ga ya tain so do do ta ga do it's on the way. Do gu do ta ga ya tain so do do Die get da, it's on the way. Interpretation of that song, because you are privileged to be fine young warriors, you all return in good condition. That is the Kiowa Black Leggings, the Tok Congo processional song composed by the late Jimmy Ankew. And that is a song that we'll be singing at our upcoming ceremony in October. And I sing that song just recently. Our Kiowa Black Leggings lost its Sergeant at Arms, Mr. Short. He was a good brother to us all, and I sing that song with him and his family in my mind. Very instrumental in our ceremony. He was dependable and guided us in many ways, and we'll miss him at our ceremony this October. But wanted just to let people know about our upcoming Kiowa Black Leggings ceremony will be held at the NN City Campground the second weekend of October. And continue to keep the Tabone Maw family in your thoughts and prayers. Aho. So I'm pleased to share with you some significant legislative updates from this month's regular session that was held on August the 10th at the Kiowa Tribal Complex. Our legislative body works together to implement changes that positively impact our community, and we aim to streamline our government operations. So the first was the Hearth Act of 2023-2024. The legislature approved the Hearth Act, which is a significant move aimed at enhancing economic opportunities with our Kiowa Trust property. The act empowers our tribe to manage and lease tribal lands without requiring approval from the Secretary of Interior. And this grants us more autonomy over our lands, expediting developmental projects. We are working with building trust property projects that work with hemp, growing hemp, not for the cannabis qualities, but for textiles, making rope, fabric, tools, that sort of thing. And we hope to attract more businesses and create jobs, ensuring that our cultural heritage and our natural resources are protected. I also sponsored an amendment to our Sponsorship Act for the Kiowa Tribe. This enables the executive branch to approve sponsorships through the executive branch. This amendment aims to provide clear guidelines on ceremonial societies, churches, and cultural organizations within our Kiowa community who hold ceremonies, powwows, events. They can contact the executive branch and request sponsorship support. This is a revised act. We passed it for the first time in 2022, and we are now updating who can request those sponsorship funds. This includes a streamlined application process overseen by the executive branch with expanded eligibility criteria for ceremonial societies. We included the Little Rabbits. We included the Kiowa Princess Sorority. Those were two additions made to those ceremonial societies that can request funds from the Sponsorship Act. We also included two more churches, Impact Church out of Lawton, and then the American Indian Christian Fellowship out of Chickasha were included, as well as the Prayer House Association. There were a couple of churches that were taken off. For example, Saddle Mountain Indian Baptist Church is no longer active, so they were taken off the list and replaced with one of those other churches that showed that they were Kiowa churches within our Kiowa jurisdiction, and the founding members of that church were indeed Kiowa citizens. So we also made a change to the churches and a change to the cultural organizations. For example, on the last act, we didn't list out the different cultural organizations. We now have a list of people who may request funds for their ceremony, to include Kiowa Women Warriors, Kiowa War Mothers, Chapter 18, the Carnegie Victory Club, even some school Indian clubs that might want to host a dance or something can seek funding from the the Kiowa Tribe Sponsorship Act. The third piece of legislation that was approved at this regular session was the executive branch 4-division structure. In an effort to optimize our government operations, the legislature approved a new 4-division structure for the executive branch. This restructuring is designed to improve efficiency, accountability, and service delivery. Each of the 4 divisions will be overseen by an executive director and will focus on the following areas. The first one is tribal operations. The second one is health and human services. The third one is our tribal education agency. And the fourth one is our housing and community development. We believe these changes will foster a more responsive and effective government oversight that better serves the needs of all our Kiowa citizens. I also read into record at the last regular session a resolution to repeal the Employee Benefits Insurance Act. Right now, there's currently a law in the books that prevents our executive branch from looking at self-insurance for tribal employees and citizens. We currently have the standard Blue Cross Blue Shield, which comes with a cost. There's a lot of money that the tribe has to pay to Blue Cross and Blue Shield, and the intent is to allow the executive branch to explore other insurance programs to include self-insurance. There is a program through Blue Cross and Blue Shield. They call it the Native Blue Program. It is self-insurance, and it's designed to cut costs for tribal organizations, and there are other tribes that have switched over to the Native Blue Program. We're not completely certain that's the route we want to go, but we need to clear the law to ensure that there is some flexibility and that the executive branch can look into providing more comprehensive and more cost-effective insurance to its tribal employees. We encourage all community members to continue to research. We're going to post these resolutions and laws to our legislative page. They'll be included in a button that says, Legislative Law Library, and we hope that you can get in there and read them, decipher them, ask questions about them, and as always, we welcome your input and your support. And good afternoon. Good afternoon, Dr. Brad.
Good afternoon to you, Mr. Queton.
We got a special guest with us here, the Native Nations Center at the University of Oklahoma.
It's an honor.
Mr. Lawrence Spottedbird, Chairman of the Kiowa Tribe for now 2 years, right, Chairman?
2 years, July 15th was my anniversary, so it's good to be here at OU campus.
It just seems like
Found
200 years, huh?
Well, it feels like 20.
I found him driving on the OU campus today, right through the heart, and like he owned the place.
He was
and
just
it's all right.
reminiscing.
That's all right, Chairman.
The old days.
That's what we're all about.
I used to drive here in the 68 when I was first here. Hey,
He knew where he was going. He didn't know it was a sidewalk there. Well, Chairman, welcome. This is episode 7 of our podcast, Thongya. We just like to dialogue, share ideas.
This is good.
Ongoing things within the Kiowa tribe. And we started this a few months back, me and Dr. Brad, my co-host here. Really just wanted to get information out to our District 7 citizens using whatever is available. Podcast, Instagram, newspaper. Even I have a TikTok, which all our citizens can follow us on. But even a newspaper, getting the word out, email. And we just are glad that you're here having this conversation with us today. And that's what we're all about, a dialogue.
Mm-hmm. So good to be here.
There are probably some Kiowa citizens that know very little about you or where you're from.
Okay.
If you wouldn't mind, just introduce yourself to us and our citizens that are going to listen in, all over the world.
Okay. Well, good. Briefly, Aoehoru, Akoekon.
Oh.
Kills him again. It was given by my cone, Yale Spottedbird. When I was born, I was his first grandchild. And so hold that name very reverely and cherish it because it means a lot. But I grew up in Hobart, Elk Creek District. Way over there, the west side of the Kiowa country. There was a lot of us back in the day. Lived in the country. But I was born at the Old Indian Hospital there at Lawton, Fort Sill Indian School campus. Me and several other Koigu born the same day. Eddie Anko and Lindy Chenate.
Really?
All of us, three of us. There's another one. I forgot his name. Born same day over there. Anyway.
So you and Eddie Encore are the same age?
Same day.
Oh, wow.
Same day. And
Bobby's younger.
Lindy,
Eddie, right?
Lindy Chenate. I don't know who was born first, but
Okay,
one of
okay.
but earlier. And then I was raised. Actually, my mother is the oldest daughter of Yale and Mary Whitehorse, and good Spottedbird.
Oh.
And my con was actually the minister at the Elk Creek Kiowa Baptist Church when I was born. And of course, for a minister to have a daughter that has a child out of wedlock wasn't good. And so they kind of encouraged him, I guess, or forced, or whatever the case may be, to step down as minister, which he did. But he never stopped supporting that church, which I really respect him for that, because he stood by his daughter even though she made a mistake, like many of our Mai do, my mother. And so, but anyway, so I was raised, still grew up at that church, still attend the church, and it's now called First American Baptist Church in Hobart, Oklahoma. I moved to town. But just grew up and graduated from Hobart High School and attended OU here back in 1968 with aspirations to become a varsity wrestler for the Oklahoma Sooners and become an architect. And I was doing those for a couple of years until I fell by the wayside, unfortunately. I succumbed to keg parties and too much alcohol, and that's too bad. Looking back, but that's my history. And so I got married actually, and then joined the Navy, and got out, and finished my college later on. After raising a family and working for some time, I did finish college at the University of Central Oklahoma. It was Central State back then, and I got my business administration degree. And from day one, I worked at a tribal business development center on the South Campus here at OU for Oklahomans for Indian Opportunity. And started working there December 1981 because when I finished my work at Central State, I already got offered to work for OIO at their business development center, and that's where I started, 81. And been working for tribes in the area of economic development, business development since that time. Got niched in the 80s, starting bingos. High stakes bingos were the phenomenon in Indian country for generating discretionary revenue that tribes never had before. And so it was the first venture for most tribes into business, to learn the game of business through having bingos. And so I got involved with several tribes, starting those bingos for through the 80s, and got out of it in the 90s. After the 1988 Indian Gaming Regulatory Act was passed, 1990 was when the National Indian Gaming Commission had traction and was established, and the rules and regulations then caused us to move out of that because only tribes could be licensed to do bingos at the time. And so the way we were doing business was no longer legal, basically, so I moved on. Anyway, I was glad because doing bingos and breathing smoke for 8 or 9 years was tough, so I was glad to kind of diversify.
I worked in a bingo hall here in Norman here for about 6 years, and I can attest that those clothes never smelled the same that I had to wear to work.
Well, I didn't smoke, but I might as well have. I'll tell you, it was a fun part of my life, helping tribes, get into this new venture. And getting revenue that they can make decision on. And so that was, again, precursor to other businesses. And I guess it grew up to become casinos later on. But I wasn't involved in that. But essentially I moved on and worked for a number of tribes around the country in the area, basically in the area of business development for small tribes, remote tribes, even going up to some Alaska islands and working with them to figure out what will work in those communities. And that's kind of a challenge because a lot of tribes are located in remote areas with little infrastructure, little economic foundation to support business development. Because in the real world, when you start a business, especially a retail, it's location, location, location. But when the tribes want to start one on their reservations are in our communities, that's probably some of the worst locations for starting a business.
Absolutely.
So you have to be creative in other ways. But the bottom line is that I spent about 40 years in that doing that for tribes around the country, and got a chance to meet a lot of tribes and make a lot of friends, lifelong friends with tribes, Alaska and Yakimas and Ojibways and Northern California, figuring out economic development opportunities, and never thought about coming to work. Well, I tried to work with my tribe back in '79, and it was tough. It was tough to work for my own tribe because I tried to do the right thing, but our leadership, overrode trying to do the right thing, and I didn't kind of like that,
Mm-hmm.
And so I went to work for, CNAs, and that's before I graduated. And so, but after graduation, I was exclusively working for tribes in economic development. And I keep telling folks that I learned from other tribes to what I could bring to my own tribe, Kiowa tribe. And when I came and it got inaugurated July 15th, 2022, I brought in a three-part 10-year strategic plan that I put together, worked several months on putting that together, based on what I've learned working with other tribes, and based on what I saw as could work for us as a Kiowa tribe. And so I'm still trying to put those pieces together, working with the legislators to get our economic engine developed and formed, and also refining our tribal government operations, especially to fit our constitution that was adopted 2017, right?
Yep, that's correct.
And 7 years ago almost now. And so, but we're just about operating according to our constitution as we should be. And with the four major divisions of our tribal government, the executive branch, and with our judicial branch in place, that was one of my priorities.
Mm-hmm.
And so, again, but all these years, I am an alcoholic. I consider myself an alcoholic that hadn't practiced since 1981, and I can thank Doc E and a lot of Christian folks for helping me stay sober. Because when I decided to quit, I quit, but it's hard to stay quit if that's
Sure.
good English or not. But it was hard because I kind of got tempted a lot because my pa and E were kind of all drinkers, and it was hard. But I got support, and so I remember that. But it was support based on developing a relationship with Doc E.
Oh,
And I believe that we gotta have to fix our people and heal ourselves from this bondage to alcohol and drug abuse that's been going on too long.
sure.
And the answer is helping them find a relationship with Doc E, and then having programs that we can provide support so that they can't fall back. And so that's a big dream of mine coming in here.
Mm-hmm.
And the model that I want to show as the leader of the Koigu, claiming that we have an alcohol and drug-free administration, emphasizing that, because it hadn't been emphasized. As a matter of fact, the previous one did just the opposite.
Yeah.
And so it's too bad. But we have to pray for those people. They're not that way because they wanted to be. People that are fighting us for no reason, because they want to be negative, are not that way because they want to be. We're forced to be that way through generations of negative imposition from the Alcoy, basically, and forcing us to be dysfunctional. And so we have to. But I keep saying nobody's going to fix us but ourselves.
Sure.
And so I think we got enough intelligent people to come together to do that. So that's kind of where I'm coming from with background and my spiritual connection and my sobriety. And again, I'm not better than anybody else because I've been there in the negative stuff like a lot of our Koigu are still suffering from. And so I'm not above anybody.
So you're a Hobart Bearcat.
Yeah,
Hobart
Bearcat.
Hobart Bearcat.
More
Were they the
importantly,
Bearcats back
Yeah,
then?
all
Yeah.
Bearcats.
I was
Yeah.
going to say, more importantly, a trailblazer.
Trailblazer.
From what I hear you talking about
Yeah.
yourself. A lot of us in the era of the 60s got involved with trailblazing. As far as tribes are concerned, setting
Sure.
new directions. It reminds me of a humorous story that I was telling him about at times. The imagery, which you mentioned a little bit about Indian people, also is set in the minds of non-Indian people, and it's been very
Yeah.
difficult to erase that, to redraw it for them as to who we are.
Exactly
But
right.
it reminds me of this old Indian man who, he had braids on and a feather, stereotypical image, and he was laying there on the ground. He had his ear to the ground there, and this old farmer came by and had his horse, riding his horse, and that old Indian guy, he stopped and looked at that old Indian man laying there, and that Indian man said, 10 wagons, 20 horses, 10 women, 50 men, 6 dogs, and 30 children. And that old white man on that horse looked at him. He said, "Wow, Chief." He said, "How did you know that? Where did you get that skill?" He said, "Skill? Hell, they just ran over me." I'm one of those old Indian men that still kind of uses that way to keep my ear to the ground and to hear what's coming on in life. And that's why I respect what we have to do with you today to bring you here,
Yeah.
to hear from you as our tribal chair, what you see as far as life is concerned for our tribal people in the years to come. But I'm also a very informed man,
Yeah.
in terms of listening to and knowing what's coming at it. They say history doesn't repeat itself. I say, yes, it does, unfortunately, a lot of times for
Yeah.
our Indian people. Some of them say, well, I don't have a magic ball to look in and forecast what's best for. I said, yes, you do. It's called history again. You look into it, history. I said that expert Indians are different than Indian experts. And in this day and age, I said, I like to think that we have some expert Indian people to deal with Indian expertise instead of the other way around. So that's kind of where I come from as far as talking with you, visiting with you, learning from you. We all can learn, teaching a little bit where I can. I'm really interested in the practicalities, though, of what you just got through saying. I call it context. What
Yeah.
the context is to these concepts you have that make your vision for your plan. And one particular area that I've been intrigued by for, golly, 30 years, I dreamt about it at one time, was Indian City.
Oh.
We just recently, for lack of a better word, came into that land itself, that base itself, I would think, within the past years. And I said, well, maybe this is a chance to see if this dream will come true as far as our tribal people are concerned. But what are the plans y'all, I'll use that term, have for Indian City in terms of the future?
Yes. Well, Indian City, we're very lucky, basically, to have a tribe that gave us a gift to be able to purchase that. And so we need to always acknowledge that, the Shakopee tribe out of near Minneapolis. And by doing that, we need to develop that property in a good way and make it what we are proud of, I think. And so it was, in its heyday, a destination tourism attraction. And I want our vision, because I brought a lot of people together to visit, have input, and to put together a master plan, a very preliminary master plan on what we think that Indian City property could be. And right now, we're calling it even more so than Indian City. It's a working title, but I know there's an acronym that we have a problem with that we can change that. But right now, the working title is Southern Plains Indian Cultural Center, because I want it to be more than Indian City, and I want it to be reflective of the multi-tribal impact that it had in its day by offering, other tribes to showcase their culture at a pre-contact village scenario that was, again, one of the key attractions to Indian City back in its heyday. And so we want to revive that village concept and have a Kiowa village, with teepees, and people have activities in there, and tourists will just look and see and travel to the next village, which would be Comanches or Apaches or whoever in Wichita, Caddo, Delaware, Fort Sill Apache, and even the Cheyenne Rapo. Have all the tribes to showcase their culture at our cultural center, and again, to become a destination tourism facility. One thing for the business side of it is we're designing a casino hotel, but a tasteful one, tastefully designed. I don't know if you saw the latest concept, but it looks like a village of teepees, basically, but 25-story
Structures,
teepees that will be like, because what I wanted was to have visitors say wow when they see that. And because that will excite them, and we have to have programs and activities coming in there when they come here, there to become, wowed and want to come back, want to bring their families and tell other people about it, because that's what you have when you have a tourism attraction. You want people to return. You want word of mouth to go out, and but we can showcase our culture the way we want to showcase it, not by some Ocoee that says we're going to do this, put a totem pole in front of our center. I mean, that doesn't mean anything to us. To the Northwest tribes or Southeast Alaska people, totem pole is very important to their culture, but we want to showcase our culture here. And have other venues, museum, a world-class arts and crafts store, the biggest kind that people can buy everything they need to make whatever they want to make, moccasins or shawl or roach or whatever. There's some places you can get them now, but I want to be the Walmart for Indian arts and craft supplies, where all the Indians can go, because we're in Oklahoma, second largest population of Indians, and every Indian community has artisans. Mm-hmm. And so we want to be the go-to supply. That's one piece, and a museum, our own museum, and we also need a repository facility to store our products, our crafts, our items that we get back from museums and governments around the world. Right now, we don't have a place to store them, but we have a lot of artifacts that we can get if we wanted them. But I don't want to do that until we have the proper place to store them and safe keep them in an environmentally controlled repository. That's what I'm talking about. Repository is where we store our artifacts, as well as the other tribes that want to rent our facility to store their artifacts or documents or anything that's valuable and safekeeping. That's what we want to have at this cultural center as well.
Have you got into any of the preliminaries, as I call them, such as researching, the effect of that type of development in Southwest Oklahoma? Have y'all did survey any, or is that where you're at right now? Is getting planned to do some survey work to set the stage for what you're talking about?
Yeah, all these things will have to have in-depth research, feasibility studies done from. This is just, like I said, a general master plan on what we think could go there. Once we finish this plan, we're going to have to kind of have a campaign to engage all the communities, the local DARCO, the county, the state of Oklahoma, tourism and economic development, and then the national and all the tribes that are going to be involved in there, and start getting them engaged in our project and support our project as well. But when we start doing that, then we'll have to look at each component and conduct complete a business plan and feasibility study. The hotel, casino, the museum, the repository even. That can be operated as a business itself. And our arts and crafts store or natural amphitheater that we want to put in there for performances and so forth. And the living village, we have to put a business plan together for that to gauge the possible visitorship and the economics of that.
Yeah, you used the word wow. Well, it sounds like to me you're adding the word pow. Now, if you get what I'm saying, before you get to the wow, you got to do the pow, so pow wow. Culturally speaking,
that's good.
It's also something that, I think the partnerships are critical, and I didn't know if you had any preliminary discussion with the museum or the big old Chickasaw project down there, what do they call it?
First Americans
Museum.
First
American Museum.
Y'all had some people just congregate to generally discuss some things.
Yeah, actually we have with some of the staff that came down to Carnegie to talk about some Kiowa specific kind of projects for them. But we gave them a heads up on what we're planning, and we want to engage them. Actually develop partnership with the First American Museum, National Museum of American Indian, and other museums that we can, again, enhance our museum experience for visitors there at our museum, because we can do that virtually. We can connect, we can share artifacts or display items that we may not have, but we can do those virtually with modern 21st technology. And so, but we need to have those partnerships with all those institutions. I mean, there's museums around the world and around the country that have Kiowa stuff.
Yeah.
Sure.
And we want to either share that with ourselves or with our visitors, but also possibly repatriate those things once we have our repository in place, of course. So there's so much we can do, but we have to bring the minds and the people that can put this together, and run it right, because we don't want to do it Hagen style, and because we tried to open it up in the past, but we didn't do a very well job of looking at the infrastructure and the status of that.
What's your timeline? I know you don't have a definite one, because you got 2 years left on your 4-year term, and no telling what's going to happen next.
Right.
One of the issues we've always had, like a lot of tribes have, is continuity of leadership when it comes to these ideas. Fortunately, we went from 2 years to 4 years in our chairmanship, etc. And I hope we can get another, 3-term, 4-term, whatever, as we go along. That's down the future.
Yeah.
But do you see a timeline in particular for this?
Well, I'm calling this a 10-year plan
Okay.
that I put together, and it may be longer, and some of those components may be developed sooner. But putting a timeline to it, and we're actually putting the implementation components to that strategic plan now, to where we're identifying timelines and ownerships to these various steps, basically focusing on the government infrastructure. Our department directors have been involved in getting together and adding the components to the strategic plan for our tribal government to move forward as a self-governance tribe.
Well, I got a question for you as a legislator. Is there any involvement, discussion about legislation to support?
I think we have the preliminary discussion, like it's on the master plan. We have no discussion is had yet in the legislature to like approve any plan yet, but I think we need to have the survey work done with the different communities, feasibility of a big project like this.
And I'm looking at continuity in terms of 10 years, etc. But not assure, but to ensure to some extent the continuation of such a dream or plan, that it will continue on, not when one person leaves because of whatever, that it stops just there.
Right.
Yeah, so I thought it might be necessary to look at a law.
We haven't put anything in law, but I know that the chairman has a committee that's helping him kind of oversee things, and I think he's inviting people that might want to participate.
Well, I'm inviting anybody that wants to come and attend these. I'm talking about specifically Indian City.
Yeah.
And then we did have a strategic planning session with the legislators, and I'm trying to have a follow-up one again with them to kind of bring them up to again remind them of what that plan entails, because I do want it to be our plan, and I do want all the stakeholders that's going to be involved to be aware of that and carry it forward, because I this is going to outlive myself, and I don't want it to die, because I want ourselves, the Kiowa tribe, to move forward and to again to circle back to what our purpose is to take care of our tribal citizens in need.
Yeah, I'm thinking about the other impact areas like jobs. And the poverty or economic conditions of those areas, and they're depressed somewhat as a result of whatever. But so there's more to it than just for the Kiowa people. I mean, it involves whole Southwest. In fact, to that matter,
it does.
Oklahoma in general. Southwest has not been represented, in my opinion, well in terms of Indian people for whatever reasons, like the eastern part.
Sure.
The Cherokees had this going back 50 or 20, 30 years ago. In terms of what you're saying. Chickasaws got their thing going, but the potential's out there. I just didn't know if you had any areas that inhibit it somewhat, other than the natural politics of what takes place here.
Well, the history of Southwest Oklahoma hasn't been good for us Indian people, but we don't want to forget that history. We want to remind people about it, because it is part of our history. It's not the whitewash history that I had a problem with in school.
All of us.
It wasn't, George Washington wasn't my forefather, and the brave pioneers didn't found a wild frontier. I mean, we were here. But, that's the problem I had. And so we need to be able to teach honest history, but don't dwell on it because we got the future ahead of us. And so, the way I do, and it was, I had ugly memories of Hobart growing up, but that's history. Our future and our kids are going to be involved in that. So we need to create a new future, a positive future, that where we don't have that ugliness in there anymore.
Well, that brings me to
Yeah.
the second area that we might want to talk, or maybe Mr. Queton here would like to
Yeah.
take us another direction, but that's education.
Yeah.
They coincide. Economic development and education. People say which comes first. Well, it depends on what profession you're from. I think education does, personally
Well, I
speaking.
agree too.
But I'm also into business a lot
Yeah.
in terms of that in the life of our people. So when it comes to education, I'm more interested again in the practicalities of what we as the Kiowa tribe can do, not what we can do as being told by the public school
Yeah.
or the State Department, or for that matter, the federal government. So in teaching school here for 40 years, I think that was one of the primary perspectives I gave to my students. What can we do as Native people to deal with not just the cultural aspect, but how it relates to the cognitive development of our children,
Yeah.
i.e. the ABCs, etc., the effectiveness of being raised by cultures that don't have the Kiowa culture in their homes as much as we did
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
times in the 60s and 70s. And can we go and address that as a tribe right now, other than just maintaining, like we try to do sometimes, and not to be critical of anybody. I'm
Sure.
not critical. I'm just looking at it ahead in the future as what the tribe can do to institutionalize Kiowa education within the tribe, that
Yeah.
where they can perpetuate our identity rather than being told by other entities. So I don't
Yeah.
know if you ever thought about it that way, and if you did,
Oh,
I'm
I
sure.
thought about it a lot. I'm not an educator, but I've been educated
Yeah.
in our society. And again, I refer to, I didn't really like it that much, but I dealt with it and I tried to excel in it because I had other plans. I wanted to go OU and I wanted to wrestle, so I had to deal with the biased way of, to learn.
I understand
And,
that.
and so I put up with that just because I wanted to do other things. But a lot of my cohorts didn't want to put up with that crap, to put it bluntly, and so they just dropped out. And it's too bad because they suffered, not the school or other. And so we gotta take that seriously and prepare our young people and to learn to use their minds differently than what's being taught now in our public schools. And I think we can do a lot better job. That's why the Kiowa Education Agency was established, the concept of it anyway, and to form our own charter school. To my dream is to have a K to 12, a school that we put every Kiowa kid that wants to go to school in our charter school can go, but we teach them with higher standards than they find in the public schools currently, and teach them Goetongya and our culture and our history the way it's the honest version, not a one-sided version, but the honest version so they'll learn, but to be proud of themselves and be comfortable with themselves as Goyegu when they're in the classroom. I remember being very uncomfortable. I remember times being, I wish I wasn't Indian, or I wish I wasn't Kiowa. And that's sad to say, but I went through those periods of time because it seemed like it was going to be easier if I wasn't an Indian. And I don't want our kids to grow up with that. I want them to focus their minds and their time and energy on learning, not dealing with the clutter that we had to deal with in our day in a biased and racist school. Eurocentric way of learning our way, not the way you should learn, but the way we wanted you to learn. And that's not good either. And so that's why for instance, I just went to Korea. I attended the International Youth Fellowship, World Camp, they call it. 50,000 young people from around the world went and learned about mind education, basically that teaches them how to use their mind to think, not what to think. And I think that's what we need to bring back to our kids, how to use their minds to think and to grasp and get excited about learning, but also along the way be comfortable with who they are as Kiowas. The dog E created us equal, right? He created man in his image. So you and all of us Koigu were created in His image. Kongyon were created in His image. T'okoi. But we don't have to be T'okoi to become Christians like the early missionaries told us. They told us we couldn't be Kiowa, right?
They forced us.
Well, they forced us.
Yeah.
And so, no, that's not in the Bible. And so we got to start listening to the pure message of what's in the Bible.
The thing about it, Lawrence, a lot of times too, as we get older in life, I'm going to be 80 soon.
Wow.
And so I look at it right now, I said, I've been hearing this for 60 years.
Yeah.
What you're talking about from the tribe itself.
Yeah.
And it's about time we take our elders and use them with their power they have. This generation, as you well know, of baby boomers,
Yeah.
Indian and Kiowa, probably is the most sophisticated, formally educated body of Kiowas this world has ever seen. But they're probably the least used by the tribe, in my opinion.
You're right. No, you're right.
And it's something that I said, I can understand that when you get all these people with all this power of intellect, knowledge-based wisdom, who think a lot like you're doing right now. We agree with that because we're from the same generation, per se. We need to take more advantage of those people while they have a clear mind.
I agree. And they want, you know what? They want to do more. Yeah. My grandma Dorothy and Dolores, they want to do more and teach more because they kind of see us learning the wrong way about our culture anyway. And we got to engage them and pay them for what they know too, because all of our old people, they can use the extra money. Everybody can. And so we need to pay them for sharing their knowledge.
Well, the language is good. That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm all for it. But the culture is not just language itself. It's values. It's customs. It's ceremony. It's attitudes. It's value clarification. It's blah, blah, blah. History.
Yeah.
So we need to get a little bit more contextual as far as what Kiowas are all about. And I think this generation of Kiowa people called baby boomers is going to be maybe our last hope.
Yeah, I think we need to start doing that.
We got to institutionalize that within the tribal government, not just piecemeal it and maintain with all respect. So I encourage you to take that attitude when you get into some more, as you get into your second, third, fourth year.
Well, I appreciate it because I want to rely on people, educators that can, and our Koigu educators too, that can help us and have that priority of being Koigu when we teach our kids and help us form the charter school or at least incorporate some of that into the public school system. We got Kiowa language being introduced more and more. That's a good steps.
Yeah.
That's good. And we need to open up to anybody that was T'okoi. The more people that take our language will understand us a little bit better too.
Well, here's another thought for you.
Oh.
And it's politically attached, and it's not necessarily something that I favor, but it's just a reality. And that District 7 people won't be able to participate as much in the charter school concept.
Right.
As the hub people will be, the people that live down in that area.
Yes.
And District 7 I'm concerned about a lot.
Yeah.
Because I've lived out of that area all my life here, except when I was a young kid. So what can we do for District 7 people in education, Kiowa people?
Yeah.
All these little things we're talking about are good for our people in the centralized area where our tribal service areas. But when it comes to Seattle, Dallas, Wichita, Fort Worth, etc., there's not much there in terms other than what the public schools has to offer, which is a continuation of what you were just talking about in the past there. Somehow we have got to get to where we can give opportunities to experience what we're saying as Kiowa Tribe 2 District 7, and that's a $69 million question, I think. Right?
It is a big question and big concern, but you know what? We got 21st century technology that can reach out and engage our people. Online learning, for instance.
Well, you said it's just like we practiced.
But online learning, you can get a master's degree, right?
Yeah,
Phoenix University, whatever.
Or from the Kiowa Tribe someday, hopefully.
Well, from the Kiowa Tribe, we can start engaging our Kiowa young people to learn in our charter school online. We have that. We're building up the capacity to have that ability, not only to outreach to our tribal citizens anywhere they live, but to connect with them and to share with them our language and whatever we develop locally, because that's the only way we can really practically reach them. And there is tech. Well, we learned Zooming is a
Yeah,
good way to
definitely.
meet.
Zoom doll.
And you can sit in your living room and have a sandwich on the side. Nobody knows what kind of sandwich you got. But
Well, there's outreach. Times are changing.
Yeah.
To where it's time for us to reach out.
yes,
And that's what I hear you saying right now.
that's where we are right now, and that's why the focus on building our fiber infrastructure is a huge project. I'm hoping that we get all the Hongya to build it out, because again, we don't want to be a customer to the providers
I
because
agree.
they're not going to give us what we need. We have to own that infrastructure, and we have to build on that for jobs and for business, but also for other purposes like education and response, outreach. There's so much we can do if we build our capacity ourselves and do it ourselves and own it ourselves, because that's the only way we can develop it and control it, is to own it ourselves.
So that brings me to a question here. In terms of your 10-year strategic plan that you
Yeah.
mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
where do you see District 7 citizens fitting in that strategic plan? Because right now,
Yeah.
I'll put in a little bit of context. What District 7 citizens are saying is, I don't get any services from the tribe.
Yeah.
I don't ever need the tribe because they never do anything
Not
for
as
me.
much. Yeah.
They don't. If I lived in Lawton or Carnegie or Anadarko, I could get my house fixed. I could apply for
Maybe
these
some
services.
people in
Maybe.
Lawton don't get the
Yeah,
services
exactly.
sometimes.
But where do they fit in your strategic plan?
Well, that's really, really important concern of mine too, because it's frustrating. We get calls for help and we don't have anything for them. It's frustrating. When you look at it in the context of other tribes, because I've seen other tribes and they have built their capacity up, we are called on. We don't have much, to be honest with you. I mean, I got here, and all we have is one casino that's making money, and nothing else. I mean, literally nothing else that's generating revenue or creating jobs for our tribal citizens, or anybody for that matter. Like other tribes have used their gaming resources to expand, diversify, and develop other opportunities. And basically, it was like starting from square one when I got here with this plan. So all this plan, unfortunately, is ahead of us. And all the services that our tribal citizens need outside of our immediate region is frustrating, but we can't serve them yet. It's pitiful and it's frustrating, but that's why we need to build up our capacity, not just to have a lot of things going to boast to other people, but to build up our capacity and generate revenue and resources that we can then outreach and serve ultimately every Kiowa citizen in need, no matter where they live. We have something to take care of them. If they want to buy a house and they live in Wichita, Kansas, we have down payment assistance for them, or locally or something. That's just an extreme example. It's been a long time. It's going to be a long time before we build up that kind of capacity. But that's my hope, that we can have these resources. And we need to connect, too, with other resources as much as we can to bring. But until we build up our own capacity to be a strong tribal nation with all this diverse services that we can share with our citizens elsewhere when they need it, we're not going to be. We have to say no to those guys, and I hate that. I don't sleep well at night knowing that we can't help our people that's out there. They have to come and
What
come
makes it
to
even
Carnegie.
crazier is the majority of them now.
I know it.
Because a lot of them are relocation people, generations from past, and
Yeah.
a lot of people say, "Well, why don't they just move back?" I said, "Don't want to take me there. You don't want me to go there. I don't think I want to come here and make that move." So a lot of us made a career move to improve the quality of our life when it came to relocation. Of course, that was forced on us also.
Yeah, that was another component of making us how we are today.
Assimilation, yeah.
But again, and that ties into economic development is creating. There's two reasons why, and I've learned this working with every tribe around the country. Two priorities, simple: jobs for tribal citizens and revenue to support tribal programs and services. If the business doesn't do those two, then maybe you ought to think about another business. But and so that's what we ought to focus on too, and
Economic development. That's why it's so important.
Economic development. We're living in a capitalistic world, actually, not a capitalistic country. Even these communist countries are leaning toward capitalism. China, and so what does that mean, though? That means that the world evolves around all Hongya, and if you don't have all Hongya, you ain't got it.
I hear you.
Pardon my English, Dr.
No,
Britt.
no, I understand. I go the same way.
10 minutes.
Do you have any how would I say it, activity that lends itself to partnerships with other tribes in economic development?
Yeah, yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about who we might be partnering other than
Yeah.
that KCA bit that we've been going through?
Well, you know what? I've already visited with the Chickasaw Nation.
Oh, cool.
They're one tribe that has 400 or over $400 million worth of federal contracts performed that worldwide.
Yeah.
And I approached Governor Anatubby and told him we were forming Kiowa Incorporated. Kiowa Technologies is one company that I would like to stand up. And once it stood up, I want to focus on federal contracting.
Enterprise, yeah.
And I said, Governor Anatubby, you got a lot of contracts. All I wanted you to do is figure out a little subcontract that you can award to Kiowa Technology to help stand it up. And he said, okay, you go visit our CEO in Norman here. There's our Chickasaw Nation Industries is headquartered in Norman. And I visit CEO Nimmo. Told him exactly the same thing. And he understood that. And he said, well, when you stand up your company, come visit me and we'll talk about what kind of subcontract. And why I'm doing that is that's a quick and very economic way to stand up a new company. I've done that before. I formed an IT company in Prince of Wales Island in southeast Alaska. All those people are loggers or fishermen. But we started at Powtech, an IT company in 2001. And now it's a $10 million IT company providing revenue for those two little tribes in southeast Alaska. But we found a company in Seattle that was willing to subcontracting to that startup. And I've done this several times because it's a very economic way to start up a company. And so what I'll do is that subcontract will start generating revenue immediately for that new company. But also we'll have a staff person. I just said one person's all we need. That'll get us in the game. Once we get that subcontract, then we'll apply for 8A status immediately because we're in the subcontracting business, and we'll stand it up as an 8A company, eventually be able to secure our own prime contract and hold that company up, and others that we want to do. So Chickasaws and the Cherokees are also willing to work with us too. But Chickasaws are standing by to help us. And there's other tribes as well. Oto, Missouri, Lester Harrigar, he's part Koigu. Yeah. He's willing to work with us too on that. So I found out in all my years of working that if you ask a tribal leader for something and they can help you, they will.
Invest in
if you're serious and you're upfront and you have a plan on how you can do that, and anybody will help you.
That might be part of the answer to my question about Southwest Oklahoma. And, the diversity sometimes can be self-defeating.
Yeah.
38 tribes in Oklahoma, everybody going for the same thing instead of collectively coming together for a co-op or whatever coalition to go after the environment. Yeah. So maybe that's a possibility too. That's good investment strategy, tribe to tribe, et cetera, when it comes to affecting everybody there. So I encourage that more so, especially with Cheyenne, and Comanches, and Apaches down in our area.
Word still Apaches.
Yeah, if you can get them to sit down and at least just have a dialogue, and it creates all kinds of creative juices when you hear something different. If it, not that it is, but I hear you loud and clear, and that's an area I like to I'd like to see us go into. To your knowledge and to your awareness, are we doing anything with the gaming money in terms of investing? Or are we just trying to maintain what we got right?
Well, we're going to use some of that to invest in our Kiowa Incorporated once we get that stood up. I'm waiting on there's two Kiowa Incorporateds that want to form. One is the federally chartered corporation that has to have a secretarial election that I'm hoping the legislators will release and get that formed, because that's integral to forming our whole economic development structure. The economic arm of the Kiowa tribe is going to be developed under Kiowa Incorporated. And I want to have some community town hall meetings in these different districts to talk to the people about what that Kiowa Incorporated means. The Harvard model that a lot of tribes use, not all, but I think it's a good model for us to use to build our economic development. Because, again, economic development means more revenue and more jobs for for our people. And Kiowa Incorporated is a solid structure. It's a federally chartered corporation that insulates us from income tax for any profits on or off our reservation land.
State.
And that's recognized by in the IRS code even. So it's a good solid structure that will help us build our economy and work with our local communities, because I'm pushing for smart city development with Hobart, Carnegie, and Anadarko, and they're on board with it. They signed MOUs with us. The first time we have MOUs with 3 towns working together. Kiowa's leading the way for this, and so this is my dream, to have traction when I'm no longer chairman. That plan will still be in place so that it will move forward, and the traction will be there, that our partners will continue to work together to move our economy forward, because our towns are dying.
Oh, yeah.
Are dying.
Yeah.
And the towns leaders can't seem to figure it out, because they can't see the forest for the trees, I
Yes.
guess, because they're there.
Surviving, trying to survive.
But I'm kind of like been away, and I come back and I'm reminding them, Hobart, there used to be thriving 5,000 people, schools teeming with students, and we were winning state championships in football and wrestling. Now they're gone. They're abandoned homes and stuff in Hobart. We didn't want to live there. My wife and I looked at houses when we moved back. Shoot, I
don't wanna live in
pass on Hobart.
Let's go with
I hate
what
to say
said,
that.
relocation.
Yeah. but those communities now are kind of excited to work with the Kiowa tribe, because they understand we have a plan to turn our economy around based on bringing 21st century jobs and opportunities to our farming and ranching community, because we can do that. And nobody's going to focus on that, because there's no population, no dollars in Southwest Oklahoma for the big guys to look at. So we're going to have to do that ourselves.
Yeah, manufacturing is very important too. To
Yeah.
look at that concept. But on behalf of D7 areas, it's also a good way to expand services to your D7 people
Yes,
who don't live in
yes.
the tribal service area itself. And I'd like to offer them hope and understanding that in the years to come, they'll see some more practicality out of services from the tribe. And for those in Wichita and Tulsa and Oklahoma City, et cetera,
Dallas,
Norman,
yeah.
for example. We're very interested in helping out where we can, but
Yeah.
sometimes we need to be asked to participate.
Yeah,
No, that's what I call reaching out.
Yeah.
Because and I encourage y'all to do that. We're better hurry up though, because that generation is passing on real quick.
Oh,
Unfortunately.
Quick legislative update. I mean, the Kiowa Incorporated is actually read into record.
Okay.
We got to have those public hearings, and so
okay.
from a legislator perspective, I'll make sure I press on. Mike Primus is the one that was sponsoring
Yeah.
that. We definitely need to get that out to the community so people can participate in that discussion.
Yeah.
We got about 5 more minutes here, Dr. Bed, but I want to ask Chairman a question in regards to amending our Constitution.
Yeah.
I think there could be a lot done if we were to have a constitutional convention
Yeah.
or a mandatory convention to really address the gaps,
Yes.
in that constitutional process. I'd like to know your opinion on having a constitutional convention, primarily because a lot of our Kiowa District 7 citizens are concerned about blood quantum.
Yes.
Their grandkids, their great-grandchildren are not able to enroll because of the blood quantum issue, preventing them from being citizens of the Kiowa
Sure.
tribe. I know we've been through several kind of proposals. Nothing's been approved yet. What is your ideas? I know we had talked about previously about having an mandatory convention to really address the blood quantum issue. So I'd like to have that discussion.
Yeah, I think we need to start planning for that, because our Constitution is new. Really hasn't been, kind of close to being fully implemented until just recently. But there's still a lot of issues with our Constitution that we gotta fix to be better, stronger. Several of our citizens say, "Well, I'd just rather go back to our old one," but we don't want to do that, because that's going backwards, and we're running to the Secretary of the Interior every time. We don't want to go backwards. We want to move forward, and moving forward means fixing this new one. And there's a lot of things that need to be fixed. There needs to be clarification on the KIC branch of it and the coordinator position, because that's still pretty unresolved, and there's issues with that, and there needs to be definition too on the authority of the chairman and so forth, and Blood quantum, going back to that, and myself, I don't like blood quantum. I don't even want to talk about it. That's Alcoy imposed.
agree.
I want us to go to
Yeah.
to the lineage, and people say, "Well, we'll become Alcoy if we do that." We're not talking about blood quantum. We're just talking about you're related to Goegu,
Yeah.
and you meet other qualifications to be Goegu, then you'll be enrolled Goegu. And I like that better than the one that the KFC passed a resolution to
Full
make us
bloods.
all four-fourths, and that's just very arbitrary and just playing with blood quantum. What about those Indians that are half Kiowa and half Comanche? Do they throw away their Comanche blood now that they're full four? That's what I mean. That's kind of a hagahane to
Yeah,
me.
yeah,
Just
I
go
hear you.
lineage and keep our blood quantum at what it is now, and then. But that means we have our grandchildren that we want to make Goegu, and they meet other criteria to become Goegu. Then let's enroll them as Goegu.
Well, Chairman, I have a proposal, and it's still
Yes.
on from the legislative perspective. I see there's 6 things that we have discussed, and one of them was the 4/4, which didn't
Yeah.
go anywhere. Right now we're at a quarter. There's a proposal to leave it at a quarter, which I don't see what good that would do us, because eventually we'll marry out, and
Well, you know what?
there will be a Kiowa.
I watch our enrollment every
It
day,
goes down.
and we lost 4 Goegu this
Yeah.
past week,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we didn't enroll for Goegu this week.
Yeah.
So the phenomenon is we're kind of level
Yeah.
right now, but there's going to be a point where we're
go
going to
down.
start going down, and again, that's all tied to
Sure.
blood quantum
Yeah.
requirement.
Well, you look at the essence of blood quantum. It's not necessarily a
It's not our
cultural thing.
idea.
It's not. It's a federal
not.
government's definition.
Something that was
of it.
imposed upon
Yeah.
us. as a
It's
tribe.
I say it
Alcoy
was
imposed.
imposed on us.
Yeah.
Instead of imposed on us. So when
Yeah.
it comes to that, I think a commission to
Yeah.
address these concerns, comments, issues would be a good opportunity
I'm all
for
for
you
it.
to appoint one
Okay.
with the approval of the legislators.
I don't know if we
We'll
want
do it.
another commission, but
Okay,
it could
but
be an
for-
option.
Well, this one we probably should focus on.
Figure
'Cause
it
we got a lot of boards and commissions, but that's a result of growing
Yeah, it's
as a
also
tribe.
terminology. It may not be appropriate, but it needs to be addressed a great deal again.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily agreeable with the Constitution as it stands for District 7 people.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't think it does a service as District 7
Yeah.
people as much as it does the hub people in that particular. And then maybe that's who it was written for.
Well, again, that's just because we can't serve this District 7 people as much as we can the others, and
By
that's
federal
frustrating.
regulations, we can't. Again.
Well, some of our programs, yes. Some of our programs refer back to our service area that we have to
Yeah.
identify in our grants and
Yeah.
so forth. But again, I'm for looking at our Constitution with a informed commission that will take objective steps on refining that, making it better, moving forward, not scrapping it and going back.
I
That's
agree
not
with
the
you.
way to do
Well,
it.
the thing is that terminology shouldn't be the inhibitor of what we are proposing to do right
Yeah, I think
now.
Yeah.
me and Dr. Brett had that idea about having that amendatory convention. Maybe the
Yeah.
commission can bring that
Yeah.
about.
In the constitutional.
Where we look at
Yeah.
those options, 4/4, 1/4, 1/8, 1/16,
Just lineage.
aggregate and lineage.
Lineage.
Those 6 options could be debated.
And give a full report
and
for
give
approval.
full
Yeah, yeah.
report and say this is what, and we need to offer some analytics.
Sure,
You know,
definitely.
if we were to go lineage,
That's
what's
part
the
of the report.
projected? What would be the projected enrollment number? And do we have enough capacity to support
No.
more members?
Well, not right
Not
now,
yet.
not
Not
right
yet. We
now,
might in the
but
future.
programs based on
Sure.
the numbers will start coming into play,
Yeah,
and so
as you apply for these new
yes,
grants,
right.
this new
And
money
so
coming in.
we have to be ready to build up our capacity. Our enrollment has to be probably triple because we have a lot
Well,
of people.
That
you
needs to be
know,
explained to District 7 because their numbers are included in the enrollment.
Definitely.
And when these
Yeah.
numbers come up, they say, it helps the Kiowas at the hub.
Yeah.
But what,
In
we
our
always get left
7
out.
county service areas, what our
Yes.
focus is,
Yeah.
and that's frustrating
Yeah.
because our people. I visited. We have good people in Wichita, in
Definitely.
Dallas, Albuquerque,
Yeah.
and you know what? They say we don't depend on the Kiowa anymore. We learn to live on our own. But some of them, if they could use some help,
Would take it. They need it.
they need help, and we're kind of like
Sure.
I'm sorry, but we don't have it.
Well, we're getting a little scrambled right now. We got off course. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's all right. That's all
But
right.
it shows you how many issues or topics we need to bring to light, to our people.
Well, it shows that we need to come back and do this again.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for offering. And we'll accept.
Yeah.
Hey, we do
Yeah.
accept. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, no, we need to. We need to. Well, we just now started scratching the surface of
I
many
know.
of these things.
We'll do these. We'll do this more often. Invite him back here in a couple.
Well,
Yeah,
I encourage you as much as you can, like I have with our legislator, to get out as much as you're able to do physically to District 7 people to have these little discussions with an
Yeah,
audience.
yeah.
I was very glad to see the kids come in here.
Yeah, yeah.
That was great because I propose we have a little Kiowa student session here for
Yeah.
them later on in our podcast area. So if you can, other people, I don't know if y'all coordinate getting forums out in the community for District
Well,
7.
I think we did that about a
did
year or
that
so
last year,
ago,
year
but
last
we
year.
need to do that again.
We'll pick it up again.
But we'll be happy to help out where we can. That's what I'm saying.
Sure.
Volunteer
Yeah.
service in that area, not
Yeah.
for any political reasons other than just to get the information out
Yeah.
to District
Yeah.
7.
I think
Well-
it's a volunteer to cook. That's
well,
what I
hey.
heard. Grill out. He
No,
said he was
I
going to
don't
help.
cook that good. The beans. Get the
Well,
beans.
I do want to do that for primary reason of talking about the Kiowa Incorporated
Yeah.
Yeah,
and what
sure.
they'll be voting on,
Maybe that's
so that
what
they'll
we
be
can do some
informed
sessions
of,
on. I
but
can
also
set
talk
that
about
up.
other things and hear them out on other things while we're doing that
Y'all
too.
hear that?
Maybe well, I'll set up some meetings because I want to
Yeah.
go out to Albuquerque. Denver has invited us up in September.
Denver, Albuquerque, and Wichita again, Dallas,
we
and
can
probably
set those
Tulsa
up.
and
Yeah.
here,
Tulsa's
Norman,
not an
Oklahoma
issue.
City, whatever.
Of course, you always, like you said, you had technology too for other
Yeah.
places like Zoom.
Yeah.
Further out,
Yeah.
you know,
yeah.
Seattle, up in Cleveland or wherever.
Oh yeah, yeah. We
Florida,
can
you
set
yeah.
up Zoom.
I don't know
for
how
'em.
feasible that is, personally speaking, because of the numbers and cost factors per se. But I
Well,
mean,
it is feasible. Unfortunately, we're still trying to build up our own little virtual network and at our Kiowa tribe. But supposedly, according to our IT people, we're close to getting that in place, and that's will allow us to.
cool.
They
do
still
that.
got mice operating in
Okay.
their servers over there. Got that wheel spinning.
I understand the metaphor. I understand it a great deal.
Well, thank you, Chairman, for being
Chairman.
on our
Yeah.
podcast
Thank
here
you
today.
so much. It's been a
Yeah, I
pleasure.
enjoyed it. I
Well,
enjoyed it.
well,
We need to do it again.
We'll invite you back here in a couple
Oh.
months and extend that in. Maybe we'll go down to you next time, so you don't have to travel. We'll go down.
Well, either way you want to handle this thing. But I also, I like to come up and talk to our Koigu
Yeah.
club.
Kids,
Our
Yeah,
Power
and just
Club.
tell them what's going on with our tribe too, because they're young people. They're gonna be,
that's right.
they're gonna be sitting in down there. Hopefully,
Sure.
one of these days,
Yeah,
doing
you're
some
right.
stuff for the tribe or leading the
May
tribe.
not be in Carnegie, but it might be in
Hey,
Anadarko. If you
maybe
get my hint.
Anadarko.
That was so funny. They saw him park out front of this building here,
Did
and they went and got their flag and ran up and found him. So
Excellent.
I was like,
Yeah,
we're
so-
excited.
We might need to, go to new headquarters or satellite branches. And
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, as we build and grow, we need to. A lot of tribes have what they call embassy.
Yeah.
yeah, definitely.
Ojibwe have a Minneapolis embassy for the Red Lake
Yeah.
Nation.
Well, we even had we got our District 7 offices
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
And
Yeah,
other
here
in
offices
Tulsa.
in the area. But good visitation. Good visit with you. I
Good,
enjoyed
good.
visiting
Dr.
and getting to
Brett,
know you
I'm
better.
glad we got together here.
Finally.
Yeah, I know it. After threatening for over 2 years.
Promising.
Who was threatening who?
No.
I'm just kidding.
We both were threatening to get together.
We're still good Kiowa people. I really
Oh.
believe that in our own ways, and we show it by
Yeah.
how we conduct ourselves on the media right now, more so than other
Oh.
people that I know of.
I
So,
think that's a good point, Dr.
Yeah.
Brad. We need to be a role model for how we behave and
Yes,
talk to each other,
definitely.
treat one another with
Yeah.
dignity and respect.
well, just
Yeah.
like
Because we always don't see that on Facebook.
I wish we learned how to do that at our KIC meetings. Just
Hey,
just to
Chairman,
respect each other.
You had big decisions to make. We talked about it before.
Yeah.
And you proved yourself there
Yeah.
with your promises to people. You got to go by what you promised.
Yeah,
And you
I
did.
do.
Tough decisions at times, but
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
doing a good job. And I'm here to support where I can. And at the same time, I have different perspectives that I don't mind sharing.
You
and
bet.
I don't mind people disagreeing with me. My attitude about disagreement, it's not the same as any people, but whenever they disagree, I'm the one that's enlightened by the disagreement itself.
Yeah. Oh,
Not necessarily the other way around. So it's called good discussion.
yeah.
Disagreement and agreement makes for good dynamic discussion and creativity.
Sure.
I'm preaching right now. I'm sorry.
Well,
Well,
thank you all
aho.
for listening. Thank you, Chairman. Safe
bet.
travel back to Carnegie, and we
Oh.
will see you next time on Thonga.
Oh.
Aho. Deon Deaho for tuning in to this episode of Thongya, our District 7 podcast. The music was provided by Mr. Terry Tsotai. For more information on our legislative work, please visit our website, kiowatribe.org/district-7. Thank you all for tuning in. Hey, I'm I don't I.